Hey, everybody, in today's episode, it's myself, Benjamin B., and Tammi. Tammi comes on the show today to discuss her sobriety. Now, full transparency, Tammi came through our program here at Rock Recovery Center, and she just recently in November celebrated 2 years of sobriety. Now, what you're going to understand and get out of this episode is how staying in the center of recovery is what ultimately is going to lead you into long-term success. This is a lady that came into treatment. She did it one time, and she did everything that was expected of her when she was in treatment. And then what she did was she took everything that she learned while she was with us and took it back to her hometown, and she stayed sober. We say all the time, this isn't that difficult. Build your roots, get a foundation, make friends, network, understand what sobriety is about and how to build on your sobriety, and you're going to stay sober. Tammi did all this stuff. She stayed in Florida for just over a year and went back home, and she's been sober ever since. Her relationships are back. She's got everything going for her, and she's happy. We cover all that and so much more. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we also have a lady by the name of Tammi. Tammi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Or shall I say, terrible towel, Tammi?
Or tissue box, Tammi.
Or tissue box, Tammi. First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, peeps?
Yes, sir.
So as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, well, if you're listening, I encourage you to go on YouTube and look at what is right over my right shoulder would be your left shoulder. This is, in fact, the original terrible towel. Ben, what do you know about the terrible towel?
Absolutely nothing. You had to educate me on it before.
It's an icon. It is a must-have for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Tammi was so kind to bring me one. You know, I've been saying for years that I need to get a terrible towel.
Really?
But I just never ordered one. Every time I went back home, I always forgot, yada, yada, yada. So there it is. Tammi got me a terrible towel. I appreciate that.
No problem.
And also the tissue box that we've oftentimes referenced on the podcast. Tammi had this made for us as well. So needless to say, Tammi is a loyal listener of Real Recovery Talk and also alumni of Rock Recovery Center. So here we are. Ben, why don't you kick us off?
Where do I start? So this is one of those situations, and honestly, you're telling me to start, but really, I'd love to hear her version of it, because from our perspective, just to touch on it, treatment one time.
Yes.
And what differentiated you from everyone else is what I would like people to pick up on, because Tom's a white chip wonder. Me, I went to treatment tons of times. And there's always this correlation where people that just take all the suggestions right off the rip end up being successful. And I wish that was me in the beginning. Well, I don't know. I had my experience, so now I can share it. So,
yeah.
You know, we all have our journey, but what's your sobriety date now, too?
It is November 30th, 2022. So I just celebrated 2 years.
Fire. Time flies.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, I spent a year with you guys.
Wow.
A whole year. And I went home kicking and screaming.
So what was it that landed you in treatment to begin with?
Multiple DUIs. And my family was definitely done with me. Definitely done with me. I went from the designated driver to the designated drunk in like such a short time. Part of it was COVID. Part of it was, life. You guys know that I didn't necessarily love my job. And so a part of it was that as well. And I think I wasn't open to
got to try and talk to her.
Okay. I think I wasn't open to a lot of things, and I didn't think I was an alcoholic because I had my life together. Like I was really I worked a job for 20 years and I mean, I went to school, I worked my way up. And I just I raised my kids by myself. So I was that person that everybody went to, everybody relied to. So, and then I started drinking casually and casually turned into every weekend. Every weekend turned into a lot every weekend. And then it went to daily. And my boyfriend's a heavy drinker and he still does drink, although this year he definitely has not drank as much as he did, but I was drinking all the time. And he said to me one day, "Why are you drinking? It's Monday." And I was like, "Why aren't you?" So that's how bad it got.
Can you put a timeline? Sometimes I struggle with timelines, but can you put a timeline on how quick that progression was? Was it 1 year, 2 years?
It was
6 months?
Max 3, but it was I think it was more 2, but it was max 3. But it really progressed. I mean, I really went from just casual,
When did you start? Like the weekend type drinking?
I was 45 maybe.
And you never drank really before then?
No, not really. I raised my kids. My life, my world revolved around those kids and nothing was going to come. I didn't even date really, So I mean, I was Mrs. Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver, I mean, really.
I don't. I've heard of that before, but it doesn't.
She was Susie Homemaker, and you come to her house and there's always cookies and whatever she fed you. And I wanted the kids to always play at my house because I knew what they were doing. I knew they weren't getting into trouble or whatever, And I mean, that's just what
How many
it was.
kids do you have?
I have 2.
2 kids.
Yep, and I have a grandbaby.
Did you start drinking after they grew up and moved out? Is that what that is?
I did.
Okay.
My daughter went to college here in Florida, and she was my best friend. So that could have been something that correlated to it, or I did start dating. I have a serious boyfriend, so we would go out all the time. But there were some times that I didn't drink because, like I said, I was the designated driver, so it wasn't immediately after she left. But yeah, it definitely did progress. Maybe it was that empty nest. I don't know. But yeah.
It's kind of funny. There's a line in the big book that says, this is particularly true of women. And it's referring to how fast.
Is that in the wives or the?
No, I forget what chapter. I think it's in chapter 2 or chapter 3. Okay. I think chapter 2. I'd have to go back and look. But it's funny because honestly, this is a psychotherapist dream situation here to analyze. It's kind of funny because some of the things that jump out to me, our therapist would be so proud if they're listening. Some of the things that jump out to me are the fact that it sounds to me like you had all kinds of purpose. Mm-hmm. You're taking care of the kids. You're doing everything for everyone else. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they move out, empty nest, and what do I do with myself now? And it gets asked of all the time, you were pouring out for everybody else, and then all of a sudden that's gone. Who was pouring into you?
Yeah. And the other thing is, and I say this all the time, that I went to church and I did a lot of volunteer work. So prior to starting to drink, I did all of the things or some of the things that you should do when you're in treatment or whatever service. When she was home and she was in high school, we volunteered a lot. We did the Great Race. We did any opportunity that we had, her and I did, and we did it together. And I mean, she really was she still is my best friend. But, so you're right. It probably was that, I was always taking care of everybody else and I didn't take care of myself. And you ask so what made this work? And I can honestly say that probably what made this work for me was that when this happened, my boyfriend said, you go work on you. And that's something that I think nobody ever like encouraged me to do, was like, you do you, or you know what I mean? And so like, and he said, you go work on yourself so that we can work on us. And I was so angry at him. I could, but, but in the end, that's the best thing he could have done. That is honestly the best thing he could have done, because he really and truly wanted me to come here and work on myself. And that's what I did. And then after the treatment, you know, I had the opportunity to be the house manager, and I got to stay here for that extended time. And my family still supported me and still came down to see me. So like I had something that not everybody is like. I definitely had an advantage.
A lot of people don't have that insight. This is such an important takeaway right here, because how often do we see someone comes down here, they'll put together like 30 days and they have, I'm going to call it an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
They have this illusion in their mind that they need to go home and take care of everybody else, when the reality of the situation is for years they've been nothing but a problem for the family. And then they get 30 days sober and they're like, I got to go home and rescue my family. No, you're doing them a favor by being here. And what folks don't realize, because we have this conversation with them all the time, in our opinion, the majority of cases, the longer you can stay in treatment, the better. You know, there's you know, caveats to that here and there.
Right.
However, like, you should become the best version of yourself so that when you do go back, you're bringing something to the table.
Right.
So many times people in this process are short-sighted, thinking that they've put it together just because they haven't picked up a drink at 30 days within four walls of an institution.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back and the chaos continues.
Yeah. Well, and you know, so when I was getting ready to go home after a whole year, I said to my boyfriend, like, are you excited I'm coming home? And he's like, I'm a little worried because I was able to sleep for the last year, like knowing that you were safe and that you were doing well. And then, you know, you're going to come home and I have to worry about like what's going to happen. Like, was I going to continue with everything that I had, or, you know, what was going to happen? Because he also said to me at one point, like, you did this, like, you have to get sober, not me. And I was like, I mean, there were a couple things like I was like, God, but you know, a lot of those things that were said to me, definitely I benefited from them. And because I took away from what all was, you know, anything that they said to me.
And you're right. I'll give him credit too for saying that, because Tom and I say it all the time. A lot of times we find out the family's even sicker than the addict or the alcoholic. We've had some really relevant cases recently where I'm like, oh my God, the family's worse, like big time.
Yeah.
But the fact that he had the insight and, I don't know, cared about you enough
Yeah.
to say, go do this, says a lot too.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing is that, so he's had to drive me to my meetings for the last year. And he went up to camp one weekend, and which is where he goes, and that's where he drinks. And, you know, I talked to him. Oh, I'm sorry. Tom.
That's okay.
I talked to him throughout that, and I was like, you know, how's it going? Whatever. And this I think was probably a pivotal moment in our relationship that is like, wow. And he said to me, you know, I think I enjoy picking you up from your meetings and seeing how excited you are about like what you took away from that meeting, then coming up here and like drinking for a weekend and whatever. He's like, it's not even fun anymore. And so that was big. That was really big.
Has he ever like went to any of these meetings with you?
Yes. Yeah. So he actually went to one here. I shared my story at Oasis one night, and he was there. And, you know, at Oasis, after you share people talk about it. And so he got up at the end and he said, "You see that woman there? That is the woman that I fell in love with. That is, you get to see the best version of her. You didn't get to see what we went through." So he went to that. And then I go to this one meeting, which I absolutely love. And he's met a couple people there. And one of the gentlemen was speaking, and he's gone to watch him. So he will, he's gone to them with me.
Hey, I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous? It's our basic text. It's our literature. It's our Bible for getting sober. A lot of times when people hear the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they don't really understand what it's about. Well, something that Eric and I have put together, starting on January 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be going live every single week to really break this book down. It could be very confusing. Now, I do want to bring up one point. It's very important for family members to understand this book. Oftentimes, people associate the Big Book with just alcoholics. Couldn't be further from the truth. Family members have a big advantage when they understand what the Big Book has to offer. That's why we want to put this together. We want to give you the opportunity to dive into this book just like we have. And as family members, if you understand this book and what it has to offer, you're better going to understand your alcoholic loved ones. So not only is this for alcoholics to get a better understanding of the book and what it consists of, but family members as well. Eric, give us just a brief overview of what to expect with you running this Big Book study.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us through this book the same way I do sponsees, and in a dynamic fashion, and really make this book come to life. It was written in 1939. It was written in the parlance of the times, meaning that it's written in the way they spoke back then. And it's very easy to gloss over a lot of the importance and significance in the writing in this literature, because we just don't understand why they're talking the way they're talking, or why they're using certain words that they're using. And it's really going to give us an insight into what Bill W. who wrote this book was really trying to convey to us. And people get intimidated because they think this is a big book, but it's not. What we're going to be going through is the actual text, which is only here. It's only page 1 through 167. So it's the rest of it is story. So it's not really a big book. It's a rather small book, but we're really gonna take our time and break it down and make it understandable and relatable to the alcoholic in 2024.
So again, on January 6th, this is when this is starting. I'm excited for this. And again, Eric does this here in West Palm Beach. We're in South Florida, and there's a meeting hall here that Eric does this for every Thursday night, and it's standing room only, right?
Yeah.
How many people would you say is in that meeting?
It's hard to say, probably 40 to 50.
40 to 50 people, standing room only. And that's why we thought it'd be a good idea to just run this online and give you the opportunity to see it. And so the way that you can get involved in this is go to realrecoverytalk.com/bigbookstudy. I want you to register for this so we have an idea of how many people to expect. And if you know of somebody that could benefit from something like this, share with them. Again, it's realrecoverytalk.com/bigbookstudy. It is 100% free. We're not charging for this. There's no ulterior motives here. It's 100% free. And it's a good opportunity for you to understand what the Big Book has to offer. So I'm super excited for this. Eric has taken time out of his day every single Monday to be able to do this, because that's how much we believe in this. So I'm excited for this. I hope to see you there. Again, it's realrecoverytalk.com/bigbookstudy to register, and we'll see you all on January 6th. So I want to go back to the treatment process, because, and you obviously know this, throughout your time with us, you see people that come in and out. They go to treatment multiple times. As little as one, as many as, I mean, I've heard and met people that have gone to treatment 30, 40, 50 times.
Yeah.
What was it for you that, like, what were some of the biggest takeaways? What, like, if somebody comes to you and says, Tammi, I'm going to treatment, what are the things that you would say to help ensure that they only have to go through this one time?
So I would tell them to go, stay as long as you can, do everything that you can. And, a lot of people say, don't get into a relationship that first year. If I didn't have a relationship, I wouldn't have gotten into one. And I think that is definitely something that you really should not do for the first year. That first year, I worked on myself. And I think that's why I am where I'm at mentally and physically today.
Out of curiosity, did you have any experience whatsoever with 12-step programs or any idea about recovery prior to coming to treatment?
No. So my dad is an alcoholic. He passed away a few years ago. He was sober when he passed away, but I didn't know anything about, I knew, there's a big club up in Pittsburgh. It's called the Anala Club. I knew of that, but I really didn't know, I didn't know the 12 steps. I didn't know anything about it. I honestly didn't learn about that until I got to rock, until I got to go into the meetings.
I'm just thinking, in a way, I think maybe that's the best case scenario that can, what we see a lot of times is someone will get in trouble with law enforcement or whatever and be mandated by probation to go to meetings, and they got a bad taste in their mouth because they were forced to go. But you went by choice, and I think that probably made a difference.
Yeah. So when I got the DUI, my daughter was devastated. I mean, she was already devastated, but when I got this DUI, I was like, how am I going to tell her? Now I'm going to cry. But I
There's
was
a tissue box.
How am I gonna tell her? What is she gonna think of me? And so I called her and I said, I got a DUI, and she said, we'll get through this. And Dave was mad at me, so I went and stayed with her for a little while, and she did everything. I mean, that poor kid. I feel so bad. I really put her through the ringer. She was at the point I will take all of my money out of my 401k to send you to treatment. And so I was I work for a health insurance company, and I said, well, I don't want to go to treatment in Pennsylvania. I'm going to go to Florida. So we looked into it, and it wasn't, I would have had to pay cash for it. And so even with all of her money or whatever, I couldn't do it. And so, so I knew that if I moved, it was a life event. And if you have a life event, you can change your health insurance. So I have a friend who lives in Florida, and I said, could I change my address to yours so that I could come to Florida and get treatment? And she's like, absolutely. And she's been sober for 30 years and whatever. And that's definitely another part of my story. But she said, absolutely. And so I did. And so that's how I ended up in Florida. And that's how I ended up where I was able to go to treatment in Florida, because in Pennsylvania, if some of the health insurance companies, you can't leave the state, and they have what are they called?
Out of state restrictions.
Yeah, they don't
for the policy.
Yeah. And I work for the health insurance company, so mine was really restricted. But I mean, if I was traveling, they would still.
Out of curiosity, what made you say, I don't want to do it in Pennsylvania, I want to do it in Florida?
I don't know, but I don't think I would have stayed there. Well, first of all, I love Florida, so I will say that might have been part of it. But I said, I don't know. It might have been if I'm going somewhere warm. I don't really know. But Florida was the only place that I looked at when we decided that we were going to try and do this. And like I said, I have the friend that I was able to.
You said that friend was a part of your story.
She is because, and this is a sad part of my story. So she's been a really good friend of mine since I was 13, and she's been sober. And, I came to Florida the day after Thanksgiving that year. So it was 2022, right after Thanksgiving. and she lives in St. Augustine. And I was working at her house, and I said, I'm going to take a walk for lunch. Now, mind you, I said she's in recovery. She's sober. Well, I went for a walk at lunch. And in Florida, you can get alcohol everywhere. So I went to the Publix and I got alcohol. And I got drunk and I got lost. And one of my girlfriends was like, she called my friend and it's like, Tammy's lost. And so, like, it was so disrespectful that I would do something like that to her, jeopardize her sobriety after she's been sober for all those years and kind enough to let me come into her house. Like, I mean, that's just like, to think that I did that. It's just horrible that I did not even think about it. Like, it was the selfishness of the alcoholism that I didn't really care what it was going to do to her at that moment. Now, I definitely do.
That obsession beyond mental control. You don't even process anything else. You're just like, I need this drink in me.
Yeah. And that's where like the alcoholism took me, honestly. It was like, I really had an obsession, and it was like day and night. Like every morning I'd be like, I got to get out of bed so I can go drink. And it was really bad. Like I would like eat, sleep, drink. Like it was always in my head. Like constantly. That's all I was thinking about.
It's crazy it progressed that much in such a short amount of time.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
What were you, like wine, vodka? What'd you drink?
I drank wine and vodka, and then like at the end it was White Claws. They were easy to get. They were in the can. I could hide them a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That allergy's either there or it isn't.
Oh, and it definitely was.
I mean, because you hear those cases, like if, someone may be an alcoholic that hasn't put alcohol in their body till they're 40, and then they find out. That'd be like me saying, like, I'm allergic to peanuts, but I didn't know it because I didn't try a peanut until I was 40.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. It's either there or it isn't. And we could go into the science where you can progress your way into it, like any other drug. You change your body chemistry, but that's a discussion for another day.
So when your friend, when they found you, do you remember like what her reaction, her response was?
I was crying and she's like, oh, Tam, it's okay. And then, we went back to her house and we called a couple places and we got me into treatment that next day. So like she was pivotal in getting me into treatment, but like she also supported me with it, even though I did what I did. But, like she was like, we called all of these different places, and, then the place that I went to, they were going to pick me up the next day. She wanted to like meet them halfway or whatever. I mean, like she was willing to do whatever because they came all the way to her house to pick me up. And then, it's not typical for them, but they, did, take her phone number so that like they could let her know that I was okay, But I did tell her that like when I finally went to treatment, I did tell her that I was mad at her because there are some things, and I won't go into it, but there are some things when you go into treatment that first day that you're there that like, you don't know that they're going to do. And it's like, she said, I didn't tell you that they were going to do that because I knew that you wouldn't have gone.
Like what?
Like they strip search you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's typical.
I had no idea. I mean, like, even though I was drinking like I was still a little bit innocent. And I was like.
Felt violated
in
a way.
God.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure like anybody, innocent or not, would have still felt violated. But like, if they would have told me that, I don't know if
I mean, at the end of the day, you got people sneaking in fentanyl and, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, it's warranted. I mean, it is one of those things though, like, that's why I'm so glad we don't do detox because
Me too, dude.
you having to do that. And like, I'll be honest, if we did do detox and you showed up and it's like, innocent Tammy here, that's just, she's a drunk, I wouldn't have
I mean,
made that happen. It's
they
like
even made me take my hair was pulled up. They made me take my hair out so they could check my hair. I mean, yeah. But I mean, I understand why they did it. And now, like, I'm okay with it. But, like, like the way that I wouldn't have been. Like, the Tammy today, I would have been like, yeah, let's do this because I need help. But that Tammy, I knew I needed help, but I don't know that I needed them to, like, strip search me.
Oh, I showed up so blasted to detox that it didn't matter. I'm like, sure.
Yeah, Ben was like, oh, yeah, come on, please. So what does your recovery look like now? You've been home. You've been in Pittsburgh now for a year. Mm-hmm. What's a typical day in Tammy's life or a typical week?
A typical week. So I go to a meeting almost every day, like I did here. My Monday and Monday and Tuesday are kind of like, it depends on what's going on in my life. They're not my meetings that like if I can't make it to that meeting, like my days off. So Wednesday, I go to a woman's meeting, and that is my home group. Thursday, I go to a discussion meeting. It's called the mustard seed, and that is that's in walking distance from my house. So sometimes when I don't have a ride, I can actually walk there. I bake cookies for that meeting. So like of course they're excited to see me, and they tell me they're not just excited for the cookies. They're happy to see me too, but they did ask what they were going to do this week while I wasn't there about cookies. But so, Thursday I do that. Friday I go to, a speaker meeting that is, it's mostly young. And when I first started going there, it was mostly men. And it's one of my favorite meetings. And I try to encourage a lot of people to go there. Because these young gentlemen mostly are like 7 years sober. So like you look at them and you wouldn't think, like when they tell their story, you're like, holy crap. And I've had a few of them speak for me. But like, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I do have a Saturday meeting that I go to. And so those are the 4 that I do every single week. And if I miss them, it's tragic. But Monday and Tuesday, it's kind of like I can give or take. Sunday is my day out with my daughter, so I don't typically go to a meeting.
It sounds to me like it doesn't feel like a chore to you. Like it's like you get to do this and you enjoy it.
Yeah, I do enjoy it. And I enjoy, like I said, Friday's my favorite meeting. And coming home from being in Florida and having the community that I had here and the recovery that I had here, I struggled to think, how am I going to find that there? And, I really didn't think I was going to find it. It definitely doesn't compare to what I had here, but it's good. I am definitely in a good place. But my Friday meeting, one of the gentlemen, I had him speak for me a couple weeks ago, and he actually spoke on my anniversary, and he said, it's nice when you see them come in here and you see the light come on. And so, like, obviously my light had to come on twice because had to come on while I was down here and working, and then go back home and find that kind of like niche again, But he said, he said, if there's a meeting and there's a speaker, the podium's here and Tammy's here. And it's true. I have a seat that I sit in every week, and if I run into somebody that I know or whatever and talk to them, they'll say, can I sit with you? You can sit with me, but I sit in the front. And not everybody wants to do that, but I still do that, in Pittsburgh. But the reason I brought that up was, he said, when I first came in, I wasn't talking to people, I wasn't like kind of like mingling or whatever. And now today I talk to everybody, and I've made friends with a lot of people there, and a lot of people know my name. So, yeah.
I want to point something out because it's kind of funny that you share that it was pointed out to you weren't talking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
To me, you're a talker.
I am a talker.
But I'm bringing it up because in every addict alcoholic's head, like you walk into a meeting brand new, everybody's scared.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I've always had this perception of other people like, oh, if I was only a talker like Tammi, then I'd be okay. But I'm glad you brought that up because the reality of the situation is everybody has to put that effort in.
Yeah, they do. And, so you said about like how hard it is to like go in there and whatever. If I meet someone new, I will take their phone number and like send them little texts, like kind of like encouraging. There's a woman that I still communicate with that I met in treatment. She sends them out every day. And so I forward them to some of the women that I talk to. And, one of the women, she was kind of like apprehensive at first, but I'll tell you today we are really good friends. And she's like so glad that even though she wasn't like kind of appreciating me doing that, she appreciated that I continued to do it and continued to try to help her to find what she needed, And I mean, it's really hard to go in there and talk to somebody. And it's really hard, you can give a list of phone numbers or whatever, but I could give you a list of phone numbers. It doesn't mean that you're going to text anyone on that list. But if you give me your phone number and I text you, the odds of you texting back are a little bit greater.
I want to bring something else up too that you said earlier. You said something along the lines of, I didn't think I could go home and have what I had there, what I had here in Florida. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I express to our clients all the time, you're not going to go home and do what you didn't do here. So many times, and we're facing this with one of our clients in particular right now. Oh, I'm going to wait till I get home to get a sponsor. I'm going to wait till I get home to get a home group. Like nonsense, dude. Yeah. If you're not practicing here, you're not going to go home and do it. And the thing is like a big part of this is you got to experience that here. Mm-hmm. So now you know it's possible.
Right. And AA's everywhere. And it really is what you make of it. So like you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you don't put that effort in, you're not going to get it back. And if you do have to go to different meetings to find that meeting or whatever. And that's what I had to do. But I definitely have a circle of meetings that I go to on a regular basis.
Good.
And I will if I meet someone new, I'll say, hey, I'm going to this meeting if you want to meet me there. And if they do, they do. And if they don't, they don't. But I'm still going to go.
It's crazy. You know what this is? This is recovery wisdom. Throughout our conversation, I've heard in the beginning willingness to go to treatment. Mm-hmm. I've heard open-mindedness to just do whatever. And obviously I experienced you here and you did everything that was expected of you. But even to hear how you've been presenting in Pittsburgh, the one thing, and Ben, you brought this up, this is an opportunity for you now. Mm-hmm. It's not a chore. It's not something that you had to do.
Right.
You had to do it in the beginning.
I did.
Which everybody does. You can't bypass that. 99% of people aren't just like, oh, yay, I get to go to rehab. Mm-hmm. Like, no, you have to. Something prompts you to have to go there.
Yeah.
But eventually what we want is that switch to flip. And now it's not an I have to, but it's an I get to.
Yeah.
I want to. And that is what I have heard throughout this whole conversation is you built a foundation here. You planted, you developed roots here, and well, not roots because you moved, but you did everything you had to do here, and you just picked it. You took everything from here. You go 1,500 miles north and just duplicate it.
Yeah, I did. And also, so I did some volunteer work while I was here, and now I'm getting into doing some volunteer work at home. They just opened a new shelter for women in recovery in Pennsylvania, and I'm in the process of trying to get in touch with the gentleman that runs it to A, be able to take a meeting into there, B, possibly take like donate some clothes and different things that they may need. So I definitely took everything home that I did here.
I want to touch on something Tom said. And in a way, I see what you're saying, but I a little bit disagree. You said she created roots here and then you took it back. I would say she created roots here.
Yeah.
We just put her in a new pot. And because what I want to say is, like, she did everything. You were here over a year in total in Florida. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. In her case, I feel like at the end of that year, you had enough going on down here that if you had decided, obviously you had things to go home to.
Yeah.
But had you decided, I want to stay in Florida, you had enough going for you down here where you could have.
I could have, yeah.
And that is so freaking important. Mm-hmm. And I always tell our clients, set yourself up for success where you're at today, not where you think you're going to be tomorrow. So she established roots here.
Yeah.
We just put her in a new pot.
Yeah. And my sponsor that I left here with is still my sponsor today. You know, some people disagree with having a sponsor that's not in the same state. And if I wasn't in the mental state that I am, maybe I wouldn't. But my sponsor she's sober a very long time. And so she's still my sponsor, and I still talk to her once a week. I talk to her every day, but I talk to her once a week for like an extended amount of time.
I got a guy in another state right now. Yeah. He's been through the steps, year sober, still sends me inventories, checks in. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with it either, because when you went back to Pennsylvania, you had completed the steps.
No, I hadn't.
Oh, you hadn't?
No, so I'm still working them. I'm working with them with her. So I hadn't, but I was mentally, I was where like she says to me all the time, like, you should have been sponsoring all along, because you definitely are there.
You know, there's no right or wrong in this. I mean, it's sometimes this whole AA and recovery stuff, people make it so legalistic and so, just.
The word sponsor is not in the big book one time.
No.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, people develop these quote unquote rules, and it's just not true. Like, what you've done, it has worked. And if I could sum this up, I would say in a nutshell, what you have done and what you've developed for yourself and the way you did that was you have and continue to stay in the center of recovery. Mm-hmm. I hear the sponsor, I hear the service work, the baking of the cookies, I hear the commitments of going to 4 meetings a week, the wanting to volunteer at a women's shelter, all of these things that is honestly what gets and keeps people sober. It has very little to do with the alcohol. That was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's like in the very beginning. Once that shit's out of your system, now it's like, okay, what can I do? What can I input into my life to keep me from I always say to people all the time, what separates you and the drink? Like, what is in between there? Mm-hmm. And for you have a whole list of things that you're going to play through in your head before you go to pick up that whatever it is, that White Claw.
Yeah.
You got all your service commitments. You have all your relationships. You have your daughter, your kids, your boyfriend, all this stuff that you've built and that's why they say, play the tape through. Cause that's like.
And I put it first.
Yeah.
I put my recovery first, like before anything. My birthday this year, the kids are like, what do you want to do? And I said, it was on a Saturday. And I said, I don't care what we do, but I'm going to a meeting at 6:00, and they had no problem with that. This year for my anniversary, same thing. what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, you don't have to do anything, or we can do whatever, but I'm going to a meeting at 6:00.
I want to talk about the cookies for a second. Because some people might be listening, maybe someone early in recovery, because this would be me. I'm thinking, what would Ben think in early recovery? I'd be like, what the hell does baking cookies have to do with staying sober? However, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it sounds like, because you said earlier, you're not going to be there this week, and they're like, where are we going to get the cookies? You've made yourself a staple at this meeting where I'm willing to bet if you disappeared and there was no cookies for like a couple weeks, how many people from that meeting would be calling you to check on you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she said that just a little. They were all wondering what they're going to do for their cookies.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But even if you become known as the cookie lady at the meeting,
right,
you are a staple for that meeting.
Yeah, if I disappeared from probably any one of my meetings for any length of time, I mean, some of them are smaller than others, but if I disappeared from any of them, they definitely would reach out and be like, what's going on? And I think part of it is because they know that those 4 meetings mean so much to me that, like, if I'm not there, there's a reason. And if I didn't tell you I wasn't going to be there, something's going on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way too with the newcomers that are coming in, you know, just having the coffee, having the cookies, and you know, it sounds so
cliche.
Yeah, and like, oh, big deal, cookies and coffee. But man, some of the best conversations I had with people were, and I'm a firm believer of this, before and after the meeting, I think are the most important parts.
Mm-hmm.
The meeting in and of itself, that's there. I'm in there. I'm listening. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. This is an okay meeting. Sometimes honestly, there were times where I left more angry than when I went in. But it's before and after because of the community, the people that I'm talking with, you know, the cups of coffee that I'm drinking, you know, and it's so important. So that stuff goes a long way.
It does. And to be, I mean, when you do that, when you go to the meetings and you meet these different people, we all have something in common. And, you know, somebody said, so AA is one of the only places that you can go that you can meet a lawyer, and, you know, a doctor, a secretary, whatever, like somebody that a janitor, but you all have the same problem. You all, like, everybody has the same problem, you know, and they treat you the same, like no differently. They're a doctor or whatever, but they don't treat you any differently. In fact, like maybe they treat you better. But, you know, at some of the meetings I've gone to, some of the people have said, like, AA is one of the only places that you can go that somebody's probably had it worse than you. So you have to be open to it. But that's the truth. Your story's your story. My story's my story. And, you know, obviously there are people out there that have definitely had it worse than me, but somebody's going to have it worse than you if you're open to it and willing to go and put forth that effort.
Yeah. I say it all the time. We're all, our situations are unique, but we're all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's start landing this plane, shall we? Pittsburgh. Man, I haven't been back there in, it was Levi's 6th or 5th, I believe his 6th birthday. And he's going to be turning 9. So it's been a while. What's going on up there? Anything new and exciting?
Not well, I guess the NFL draft's going to come next year, I think, or like in the near future. So they're changing some things for that. But, you know, when I was like the Terrible Towel, I was like, wonder if he misses like Mancini's bread or the pierogies or anything like that. But we never really talked about anything like that.
All of it. There was actually down here in Juno Beach, they moved a pierogi shop, and the owners of it are from Newcastle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they moved and went somewhere else. But I do want to get back up there. I love it. Have you ever been to Pittsburgh, Ben?
Not that I recall.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city.
Yeah, greatest city on earth. I mean, I've only been to a couple of cities, but
I've been to all 48 states within the
have you?
continental U.S. I've never been to Hawaii or Alaska.
You've been to all, really?
Yeah.
Like driving through?
So in high school, I went with my uncle that drove the tractor trailer for Grable Van Lines, a moving company.
Yeah.
The summers, I would jump in his truck with him. He'd come pick me up, and he'd intentionally like pick his routes and the moves he had to do based off of like being able to show me stuff.
That's
Oh, no
awesome.
kidding.
Like
Yeah.
like caught the Indy 500, stuff like that. You know,
Oh.
I'm gonna take you to.
Pretty awesome.
That's how I went to San Francisco the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. You know.
San Francisco's changed probably from
Yeah.
when you went till now.
You know, I don't think I was old enough to appreciate what I do. I was 16, and
Mhm.
I mean, a big part of the reason I ended up on the road with them is my mom's like, "Oh my God, you got to get out of here," because I was already a drug addict.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know,
And how's work going?
Work is good.
Yeah.
Work is good.
What are you doing for work? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, I'm allowed to. I mean,
Oh.
I don't think that I'm not allowed to say my job, right?
Yeah.
I facilitate complaints and grievances for a health insurance company. So, like, if you're unhappy with, the way we paid your claim or what we did, they call in and say, I want to appeal it. And then they have a hearing and I do the hearings. And some days,
Oh.
you must deal with some pissed off people.
yeah.
God
And,
bless you.
yeah. Well, and then with what just recently happened with that CEO.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that. I didn't
Yeah.
know if we should bring it up. or
I
not.
mean-
Well, so they had to change some things with us because, like, that's how that he was targeted, or so they think, possibly for like denying things or whatever.
Yeah.
So, so we would go in for in-person hearings if somebody wanted it. It was something that we had to offer due to our contract with DHS. But now that that's all happened, they are kind of like pulling back on it and trying to figure out what to do. They were going to take us and like have us go to the hospitals because there's a little bit more security there. But I just got an email that we're like, through the end of the year, we're not having any in person. So, but
Yeah.
like, there are some angry people out there.
I bet. Yeah.
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 They released like the percentages and stuff. I forget it was. Who knows if it was true or not, but of the amount of denials and this and that, and
Mhm.
United was like at the top.
Oh, really?
To anyone
See,
that doesn't,
yeah.
you have
I
to
didn't
be
mean to
living
bring
under
that
a
up. I'm
rock at this
sorry.
point. But the CEO of
Yeah.
United was targeted in a shot, and right in New York City. Was he in
Yeah.
New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, that's crazy. Do you know he was found in Pennsylvania?
Altoona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. At a McDonald's.
How about his background?
Ivy League school. Yeah.
Something was going on. But yeah, I didn't mean to bring that up, but it factors in a little bit to
Sure.
what I do, because like I deal with angry people on a daily basis.
That has to be a very high stress job.
It
And-
definitely contributed to my drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I like it. Like, I mean, I don't love it. And, the other day I went off on about something because somebody ticked me off, but I don't hate it like I did. Like, one time I hated it. Like, the thought of getting up and doing that, it just like, I would rather
Is it
drink
remote?
myself to death. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is remote.
Yeah.
How many people do you talk to a day? Now I'm just curious.
Well, so it really depends on what I'm doing. So if I have I do hearings, so I do about 4 hearings a day, and I have to facilitate those. So I'll talk to those people, and then like if I have people in my queue that want to attend, I'll have to give them a call and tell them like the information to be able to attend. So it really, I mean, any day it could be anywhere between 4 and 20 people, but they're all unhappy about something, or if I call them to say that it was overturned and it's approved, then they love me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
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 Huh.
like even bringing up this topic could open just a can of worms for me. So
it really did contribute to my drinking. It really did. I had a conversation with a girlfriend of mine today, and she, because I was like, why is this happening? And she said, well, you hated your job, so you drank at your job. You had stuff going on with your relationship where you were drinking at that. Everybody around you's getting married. You're not. So you're drinking at that. So there were factors in there, So, yeah.
Have you ever thought about transitioning to Florida?
I have. I've talked to him a little bit about like coming back, those hurricanes didn't help me because now the cost of your insurance is so high.
Well, just rent for a little bit, So
we definitely want to get back to where we were before my drinking got as bad as it was, which was where we could come February and March and stay. So that's definitely something that we're looking at.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh in the wintertime is brutal.
It really is.
Are you in the city?
Yeah. I like my state. It's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yeah. So I'm in the city.
No, but do you live in the city?
I work in the city. If I have to go in the office, I'm in the outskirts.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I live in the North Hills.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Tammi, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Congratulations on 2 years sober.
Thank you. I do want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, I can remember you telling me I was on a pink cloud. Yeah. And I was told not to get straight A's in treatment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was told that. And for the most part, I don't know if I'd say I got straight A's, but I mean, because I did have one or two incidents, but I did work a solid program. But like you did tell me I was on a pink cloud, and I can remember like, well, I'm gonna ride that pink cloud, and I'll still ride it.
Was
today.
I wrong or was I right?
Maybe at that point I could have been riding a pink cloud, but I was gonna continue to ride it.
Because let me say this. I love it when I'm wrong.
Oh.
Because I'll just call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We all do it. Someone walks in here. We have a case right now. I'm like, oh my God, Tom, this kid is never going to make it. I was dead wrong. He is flourishing beyond anything I ever imagined.
Yeah.
John?
Where he would be. Yeah.
Yeah. We can use first names, and chances are his dad's listening. So,
I mean, I was like, dude, this kid ain't going to make it 3-4 days, Tom. And to see the work that he's doing, do any of us do it perfectly? Absolutely not. No.
And is there perfect?
No, but not by any means. And I believe if it's not perfect, just like you said, we don't want you getting straight A's in treatment anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that, we want to see you screw up. We don't want to see you relapse.
No.
But we want to see you struggle. We want to see you screw up. We want to see you depressed. We want to see you facing life on life's terms, because those are the opportunities that we have to say, okay, you have this going on and you feel like shit. Here's what we're going to do different instead of drinking. Are you willing to try that?
Yeah.
You
and
know?
it's better to have that happen in the controlled environment, so that like if you do need that support, somebody's there to help you and give you what you need for the future.
Well, Tammi, you're doing phenomenal. And man,
there were so many like nuggets in this one.
Yeah.
And maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I have no idea. I'm not in your head. But like whether you shared that stuff consciously or unconsciously, you can't hide recovery.
No.
You can't hide sobriety. Like the things that you were saying had so many nuggets of wisdom in there that I don't even, it's such a part of you.
It is.
And this is a compliment.
Thank you.
That even if you didn't realize you were dropping this wisdom, it's like ingrained in you anyway, which is, in my opinion, even better. Like you're just doing it second nature. That's where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to be where I'm at today. Mentally,
well, we're happy to
physically,
see you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, any final thoughts?
No, I had fun today.
Tammi, thank you.
Thank you.
And anytime you're back down here, you come on the show.
Okay.
It's these ones that get me excited, dude.
Hell yeah.
Because you get to 2 years later, it's like, wow.
So you did have final thoughts.
Yeah, I burst at the seams. Sorry. All right, I'll shut up now.
All right, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.